India, a country on the move. With more than 1 billion people, it could become the world's third largest economy in the next 10 years. As fears over China grow, India is rising.
Now, China has been the engine of global growth for several years, but with its economy slowing down, could India be about to take over? Delhi says its time is coming. It's the fastest growing of the larger economies, home to more than 1 billion people, and the UN says it will become the most populous nation on earth by 2022.
India is a leading power in the world, the largest democracy, the fastest growing major economy, the second largest contributor to UN peacekeeping operations. I want to look to the future and the limitless possibilities. The UK and India are two countries with an ambitious, confident global outlook. As the UK leaves the EU and India continues its rise in the world, we should seize the opportunities ahead.
I would now like to introduce Cohesion Investments Chairman James Caan. You'll probably all recognise this man from the very familiar Entrepreneur, best known for his TV appearances as a dragon on the BBC hit Dragon's Den.
I firmly believe that Indian equity investments will become a core part of mainstream client portfolios over the coming months and years. We want to be early adopters of this change and also lead the market in partnership with Reliance, arguably the most successful business in India and one of the most successful businesses and investors in the world. In fact, when Spike recently launched the India Fund, he came to me and asked whether I want to invest. I asked him who he had commitments from. He rattled off the most successful financier and one of the richest private individuals in the UK, who'd actually wrote a multi-million-pound personal cheque as the first investor.
Thank you, everyone. I think everybody pretty much knows what we do. Our business is really simple. We look to identify world-class investment opportunities and then connect those investment opportunities with discretionary investment managers, ultra-high net worth entrepreneurs and their family offices. But the Cohesion business model, the one thing that I really want Cohesion to be recognised for in this market in 1 year's time, in 5 years' time, is that we are a business that knows how to make you money. That is my dream for our brand in this market. But of everything I've done in the last 30 years, there's nothing that has excited me as much as the subject that we're going to talk about today. Not only investing in India, but investing in India with Reliance. Now, Reliance, of course, is a well-known name to some people. It's an extremely well-known name in India. You know, we are talking about just about the biggest corporate house in the country, worth not far off $100 billion in market cap. And Reliance set up an investment business 21 years ago, and this is the return that they've delivered. So, had you put $1 million in to this at the start, you would have made just over 90 million. So, Reliance are going to cover two things today. One is the absolute case for investing in India as a standalone investment. And the second thing we want to talk about, which Reliance will talk about, as well as the case for India, will be we really do believe that if you're going to invest in India, you need to do it with a big domestic player on the ground that really understands that market, and Madhu and Sunil will explain why.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Reliance and Cohesion, I warmly welcome all of you. So, this is what makes us most bullish about India. Growth is subdued, to say the least, across the world. In India, it is rising. So we are not satisfied or happy with 7-8% growth. We are aiming, our Prime Minister is aiming at 10% GDP growth rate starting 2019. Reform momentum. In the last 70 years, one of the biggest reform which happened in India was last week, where we demonetized 500 and 1,000 rupee note, which was actually the complaint of the world, to say, to put it in perspective, that people thought that it's black money, corruption, this is happening, that is happening. So it all get killed with one shot. I just want to put things in perspective. We are not talking of making 5% return in this country or in these markets. Obviously, it comes with whatever risk it comes with. So if you see, from 1996, the index was 3,300, and we are at 25,000 now. So we have had a roughly 9x return in the basic benchmark indices. You know, our portfolios in the same time has gone up 90 times. If you are convinced that India is going to grow, and there is a case for this kind of growth over the next 10, 15, 20 years, then I think making an investment decision becomes very easy. Then you will not bother about, oh, I missed this because the pound went down and I missed this 5-10% move. So I do not think, in a larger perspective, these things matter. And we are very confident, regardless of what happens in the world, regardless of what happens to the broader market, Indian equities, even in dollar terms, over the next 20 years, will be one of the best asset classes to invest in.
I think Madhu talked about why India looks exciting. I think I'm going to focus on, when you look at India, why you should look at Reliance. One, we have a larger number of companies. Second is, we have a huge number of upcoming sectors. And these upcoming sectors, when they come up, they necessarily start small. All this means that we need to have a very, very strong in-house research, because we have seen that the sell-side research guys would only cover the 50, 60 larger companies, and I have a slide on that. And you will miss the big alpha unless you start to track the companies in-house from day one. So as I mentioned to you earlier, this is a chart. So almost 48% of the listed companies in India have zero research. Only 10% of the companies have research of more than 10 brokers. And this is where my point of having a strong in-house team comes into play. So, unless you are onshore, you will not be able to track almost 90% of the market. You will be saddled with only the 10% of the market which is widely covered. And I think this is where the huge alpha, which Madhu mentioned about 90-time returns in one of our flagship funds, comes from. Again, Spike had this chart just for the sake of repetition. It's up 90 times in the last 21 years. It makes it one of the best performing funds, not only in India, but globally. Again, the highlight is that we need to track companies before they become large. And there will always be a tipping point, which if you're able to identify at the right time, you will make a lot of returns. And I think that is where being onshore and having a large team of analysts definitely works. So I think what we're trying to do is marry the long-term trends, but focus on companies which are market leaders, which already have a strong balance sheet, which have decent earnings, but where the surprise element can be much higher than what the street expects. So just to recap, I think India definitely has a lot of potential. As Madhu mentioned, we are definitely going to $4 and $6 trillion in economy size. We have to have a country focus, because if you are diversified across countries, for every one country which will do well, another country does not do well. And therefore, if you see the last 5-6 years, emerging markets as a package deal has not done anything. But within the emerging markets, there have been some countries which have done really well. And I think having an onshore fund manager makes a lot of sense, because that is where huge alpha opportunities can be tapped into. And we believe that with our track record of 21 years, with our large team onshore, with a very stable team, we are well poised to it. Thank you.
Ladies and welcoming Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Bharat Mata ki! Bharat Mata ki! Bharat Mata ki!
It was at this point I made the statement I've used many times on Dragon's Den: I'm in.